episode 163, 6 Ways to Succeed as a Leader.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And a 3, and a 2, and a 1, and a 6 ways to succeed as a leader. Welcome to the very best podcast in the world. Your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and motherfucking happiness. How do we get here? I don't know. Anywho, still have the sniffles because the pollen are pollinating. We're doing whatever. So nope, no Coke. Sorry to have to disappoint you. Housekeeping. Shall we get that off the table, please? Sharing is caring. I think that's, I promised to bug you at the beginning of the year, every single fucking episode. In that, if this episode is good for you, good, because you're a loyal subscriber. Hopefully so. If not, shame on you. If you are not a loyal subscriber yet and came across this episode by chance, please, consider the people in your surrounding and whether or not it may be beneficial to share this episode with them. Simply because sharing is motherfucking caring. Now that we have that off the table, today's topic is leadership. And so, there are 6 things that I kind of picked out, which coincided with what I meant. And I'm going to try to stick with 2 examples per, action item, for lack of better words, or, ways in that you can just become a better leader, or what good leadership is really about. So, number 1 is going to be inspiring commitment. Number 2, leading employees. Number 3, strategic planning. Number 4, change management. Number 5, employee development. And number 6, which I think should be number 1, is self-awareness, because I think everything kind of stands and falls with being self-aware, obviously. Not only in a leadership position, but we'll get to that in other episodes. Sorry, I had a devious cough that I had to get rid of. I didn't cut the episode. I never do, really, actually. So that being said, number 1, let's get started. Inspiring commitment. So I think there it's recognizing others' achievement, right? If you're a leader and not the boss person, we have to differentiate the two. As a leader, you're going to be putting your team in the spotlight. You're going to focus around your team, because a boss is, like this, sun, which, everybody kind of orbits around, but they never really acknowledge what their team did for them. It's like, the thing, right? You work for your boss, and your boss kind of gets all the glory and the shine, from the sun, being the sun and everything, right? So as a leader, however, it's more about, putting your team at the center of attention, because you wouldn't have been able to achieve all of that by yourself. You can be honest, or you can deny it. You will deny it if you're a boss person, but if you're a leader, you acknowledge your team and all the effort they put into it. And that at the end of the day, you were just a coordinator putting all the strings together. And that's what motherfucking counts, right? Motivating your team, I think, is self-explanatory, because a motivated team is going to deliver more strings for you to put together, and longer strings, and more colorful strings, and I don't know what. But it's going to be easier for you to intertwine everything. And, motivation goes a long way in, getting work done most efficiently, but most importantly, with a very, very high degree in quality. Number 2, leading employees kind of goes hand in hand here. Delegate effectively. And I think that's what a lot of people in kind of these management guru training bullshit setups learn to misinterpret. It's like, we did an episode about that. You can go all in, right? But if you delegate to your secretary to get you a fucking cup of coffee, you're missing out on a variety of things. Number one is exercise. Right? You can use it usually, right? You don't have to go to the gym if you've already burned 200 calories running to the coffee machine 400 times per day. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But it also lets you miss out from the polite conversations you can have with people hanging around at the coffee machine, which usually takes away tons of time out of your agenda for fucking meetings that you have to set up and attend. It's like this, you go to the coffee machine, you meet whomever, it's like you need to talk to that person, right? And this informal setting, you can just get shit done without any, minutes being taken, without 10 people being present or a dozen. You can just kind of beef it out at the coffee machine and it's done, and that's kind of like what effective delegation actually boils down to. Now, the second example I wanted to bring forward in, leading employees is to act with fairness. Always, bitch. Always. There is no reason on earth that you should be unfair. And if you are unfair because you didn't pay attention, because you were emotionally fucked up and, chewed somebody out, which didn't deserve it, there's no reason on earth not to go to them and say that you're sorry, right? Because at the end of the day, what it's about, if you were in an emotional state, which you were aware of, that kind of kills everything. And you still didn't take appropriate countermeasures, right, to get yourself back into a balanced emotional state, you are the one who fucked up. Right? There's no reason to chew out an employee for a mistake they made, because at the end of the day, you as the leader are going to get, the brownie points discharged from your chart because you are the one who fucked up as their leader, right? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Number 3, strategic planning. This is kind of interesting because it's about translating vision into reality. And we've been through that. Right? I think we even did an episode about that. That's what leaders actually do. And it's like having a vision brought to you and making that into reality together with your motivated team. And everybody's got a balanced emotional household. Boy, what a wonderful fucking world. The second example is to plan long term. That's what you are as a leader, a strategic planner. And therefore, you have to plan long term and you have to be good at chess because you have to anticipate all of the bullshit that can kind of trip you on the way, or the potholes that you're going to run into and change the tire and, that kind of shit. All the legal stuff that can get in your way. You need to be very, very, very good friends with the corporate shysters. I know it's difficult, but, still having a coffee with them at the coffee machine can take away a lot of your stress and make your long-term plans actually turn into fruition. Turn into fruition is that? I don't know, but you know what I mean. So, number 4, change management. Facilitating organizational adoption, right? That sounds so out there, but it's not. Organizational adoption, facilitating organizational adoption. I'm not going to go into that. Look it up. To be perfectly honest, it's rather theoretical. I don't know why I took that example in there, really, honestly. So let's get to the second example, which is managing resistance to change. Now, for those observant listeners of you, I did a lot of time in management consulting. And that was a reason for me to quit the hamster wheel. But what always happened was resistance to change. We've always done it this way. It's worked perfectly. And, the arguments are infinite. The bullshit that you're going to get as resistance, that why you shouldn't implement change, is like, okay, I heard all of them 3 times at least. And I think I'm going to actually write a book about that, because what it's about really is to motivate, right? To motivate the organization, right? In a way that the project that you're doing, right, or the plan that you have, is to get the people psyched about it. So it's about, don't call it change, right? That's the first thing. Call it an improvement of whatever. Call it our new route to 2030, or 2035. Where do we want to be? Why do we want to be there? Right? Because your average Joe Blow, which is not on your team, but who's going to be subject to the change, right? They're going to be affected by it. It either means more work, or they have to adopt to new shit, or they have to learn shit, and all that kind of good stuff, right? And it takes them out of their routine, and they're not there for that. They're there for the routine. They do their routine, 40 hours a week, and then they get their paycheck, and then they come back on Monday and do the same shit all over, right? And that's difficult for them to process. So it's about staying the way that you are, but kind of tweaking a little bit. And that leads us back to the long-term plan, where you can kind of overrun them, right? This resistance. So number one, of course, is how you're going to market the change. And the first thing in that is, don't call it change, right? To not get the resistant ghosts up and running. It's about actually calling it something entirely fucking different, and then kind of tweaking on the screws along the way, implementing it slowly. It's like, the frog that you boil in hot water. Or was it a hummer? I don't know. Or a lobster. That's the English word. Sorry. Lost in motherfucking translation. Number 5, employee development. Coach to improve performance. And you should set aside a budget for every employee for personal development. And I don't mean personal development, sending them to some kind of psych school or something, but to actually learn and improve skill sets that they have or that they want to learn, right? And if they use them in their private time, so fucking what? The benefit that you're going to have is going to be significant, right? Let me give you an example. When I was in school, and I had somehow obtained a degree in electronics, or electrical engineering, I think is what it's called. And so I would work at an electrician company during vacations, right? And what this electrician guy, and it was a pretty big outfit for the region that I grew up in, right? And what he would let his employees, he would let his employees use the company cars to work off the record, for friends and family and whomever not, over the weekend. Just because, not necessarily because he was a good person, right? Because they would obviously use their tools and, things would get, but it was about getting them to develop themselves further and to use the material, the tools that they had to excel in new challenges and not to lose sight of the minor things, right? So let me do the example. What we would do there is usually industrial stuff, right? Big companies that we would outfit with new wiring, and it was a totally different ball game than from going to Aunt Ginny's house and fixing or putting in a new socket for her in the wall because she needed one next to her recliner. Right? 2 different mindsets, but it kept them connected. So, and still, they would have the motivation that would motivate them totally, and get them to be willing to accept trainings and, development, et cetera, et cetera. How did I get there? I don't know. I forgot. The second example here is providing guidance and encouragement. And I think that example would fit there as well, right? However good you are at what you do, usually you're going to be good if you're in a leadership role. It's about not providing guidance in that, how's your wife doing or something, but being there as a mentor, and developing your employees further and encouraging them in pretty much every life situation. Because the husband or the wife can be an idiot. And so that leads to, the motivation kind of crackling a bit for a lot of people. And in that, it's very important to be there as a person to talk to be approachable, right? And to deal with the shit and to actually, be hands-on and, help with your network if something like that arises. Stupid example. One of my guys was having trouble with the agency responsible for childcare. He divorced from his wife. And I met him by chance at a party somewhere. And he was, pretty much hammered. And I said, what the fuck is the matter with you? You're going to be okay on Monday, right? The thing you ask. And he was like, my wife told the childcare agency that, I was being bad to the kids. And I knew that he wasn't. His wife was exaggerating, right? But it led to the fact that he was having difficulty seeing his kids. So I knew the lady that was working for him, and I've called her on Sunday, and we met for coffee. And I said, look, there's these arguments being made there, and I just want to vouch for him. I think that the arguments brought forth are not really, don't really have a foundation. And anyhow, so I dealt with his shit, and on Monday, everything was cleared up by noon, I think. And the guy came, back. He wasn't feeling so well, obviously, a little bit under the weather, and the weekend was hazy. But it was a very good situation because he came in late, but had his big fucking smile on his face because he got a call from the lady, and his problems had been kind of alleviated. So he was back at 110%, focus on point, where I really needed him to be. Number 6, self-awareness. And I think, again, this is the most important one in it. And 2 examples are really, recognize personal limits. And that's, I think, a no-brainer. But still, for me, the moment I was on a project, and it was one project that I was doing, and I was doing, I think, 3 or 4 projects simultaneously on 2.5 continents. And I woke up in a hotel in Singapore, not because I was, drunk or whatever. It was just because I was just so fucking exhausted. And it took me a minute in the middle of the night to figure out where on the planet I actually fucking was. And that was for me where I said, okay, look, you're, you could be dead in your mid 50s. And, all of the shit that you've kind of done, you can't take with you, and so that's when I said for myself, or determined that I need to change something in my life and step a bit shorter, and actually did, because that's the recognition. After recognition comes execution. That's another very important point as a leader, right? Now, learning from mistakes, I'm not going to go into that because that should be a no-brainer. Every mistake that you make is a lesson to be learned. Look at it that way. Don't, because mistakes, everything along that line has a very negative connotation. Chances are that if you fuck up somewhere and make a mistake, you're not going to do it again, right? So it's a lesson learned because you're not going to do it again. It's about phrasing. We did an episode about that really a while ago. You should maybe look into that. Those were, ladies and gentlemen, 6 characteristics of a leader, or 6 ways to make you a leader, whatever the title was that I started out with. I can't remember. So, anyhow, long story short, have a nice rest of the day. If you already had the rest of your day, Have a good night. Leave your hands above the blanket. And tomorrow we're going to be back for another show where I haven't really figured out a title yet. So in that sense, stay tuned and peace out.